So let's talk about pruning real quick. Pruning, obviously you prune because you're trying to maintain size of plants, or you're trying to rejuvenate some new growth. Maybe it's an old plant that just looks tired and you're wanting to cut it back pretty hard and let it kind of rejuvenate itself. Maybe you're trying to, maybe on some apple trees, fruiting trees, you're trying to specifically control how much flower production is produced on that tree so that you have better quality fruit. So, there's all sorts of reasons we prune. You also prune just to control maybe getting rid of dead portions of the plant, or maybe there's something unsafe in the tree, a limb needs to be removed, whatever. So we obviously have all sorts of reasons we prune. I will say this: if you're simply having to prune to keep plant material down below the windows or keep it from climbing up into your gutters or what have you, it might be easier just to rethink what plant you have. And there's all sorts of, just to give you an example, and we'll talk about this here in a minute. Crepe myrtles, you can buy crepe myrtle ground cover now, or you can buy Natchez, which is going to mature about a 40-foot height. So you can buy crepe myrtles that'll mature anywhere from ground cover up to 40 feet. 6 foot high, 9 foot, 12 foot, 15. So let's talk about pruning cuts. So I see this all over town. It's like a contagious disease. I don't know what the deal is here, but one landscape group sees somebody doing it, so they got to do it too. And then homeowners see it, and they think, oh, it looks good at Turkey Creek, I got to guess how much to it too. So unless you just like that look, don't do that. Okay? Buy a crepe myrtle, plant a crepe myrtle that's going to mature at the height you need it. If you've got power lines above you, buy something that's going to mature out at a proper height. So, crepe myrtles look wonderful if you just let them do their thing, and maybe keep them limbed up a little bit. If crepe myrtle is truly a shrub. It's just kind of over the years turned into this tree form. So pinching. Every plant has node and internode growth activity. So, I instruct all of our landscape crews when they're planting their annual flowers every 2 times a year to try to pinch out the central leader. What that does is that forces hormones and activity to go into the lateral bud growth, so that our annual flowers spread out wider instead of growing so tall and leggy. So pinching out, you just pinch off your fingernail and it just pops right off. So, I'm sure people that in the bonsais, they do this kind of thing too. So that's just one form of pruning. Thinning, we mentioned trying to get more sunlight maybe to the lawn, what have you. You kind of see what they've done to this tree. They've gone in and maybe they removed some dead wood, I don't know. They've removed some cross branching that's rubbing. They've kind of cleaned this tree up, but now we have possibly a canopy that's not producing as much shade as it did. Maybe that's what the homeowner, or that's what the ultimate goal was. Heading back, I won't go too much into that. That's really just somebody going through and just using hedge trimmers and cutting it back. So
really not supposed to do that, though.
Not really good to do that. We do use hedge trimmers on campus just because of the bulk that we have to maintain, but we try to teach our staff, and I try to teach people that if you can do selective pruning, take your hand pruners. You don't want a surgeon walking in with hedge trimmers or chainsaw. You want him to use his scalpel and be skilled. So use your hand pruners. Reach into the plant and remove that excess growth, or reduce the size of the plant by reaching into the plant and selectively pruning out all the way around. And when you step back and look at it, all your cuts are inside the plant, and you really can't tell anything's been done except you've reduced the size of the plant. Proper pruning cuts, in case you don't know, the one on the left is textbook. The second one from the left indicates, just too sharp of an angle. So what you've done is you obviously want to cut at a 45 to kind of just get any kind of, keep water from setting on that cut. If you cut it flat straight across, you have a tendency for rot or deterioration right there. So this is the best cut. If it's too sharp of an angle, you actually have opened up a larger surface area by doing so. So it takes longer to heal that wound. You want to. This is kind of more toward roses, and it goes for all plants, but for those who are asking questions about roses, this is why I put this in here. You have buds, dormant buds that are waiting to pop out. So by making this cut, you now have this bud right here, and probably several others that are going to put on new growth. So that's too close. You don't want to damage this bud collar. If you damage that bud collar, you're probably going to have weak or additional dieback in this zone here. So you don't want to cut too close. And of course, that's too much. You're going to have a lot of decay. Once you cut this off too high, that is no longer useful. This portion of the stalk is no longer useful for the plant. So it's just going to give up any activity, any nutrient going to that end of the plant or that end of the stalk, and it's just going to start to die, and you have disease that sets in and so forth. So if at all possible, you'll have the best success with healing from a pruning cut if you follow the example on the far left. This image is supposed to kind of simulate what was going on in a more formal hedge situation. The sunlight is being shaded by this wider upper canopy, so you lose foliage down here. The plant realizes that these leaves down here aren't doing anything for the plant, they're not capturing enough sunlight, so they say, well, I don't need you, I'm going to let you go. So a better way to combat that is to don't angle it out like a pyramid, but angle it just enough so that you're getting kind of equal distribution of sunlight on the sidewalls, if this is something that you...
So once you do that to the top, it'll start to, over years, will start to grow leaves again on the bottom?
Yeah, it'll take some time to recover, yeah. Because you're getting sunlight, you've removed the upper canopy of the plant, so now you've got hormones and growth hormones going to those dormant buds. You'll have dormant buds that are active down in this zone here, but the plant won't send any hormones, any nutrient to those buds while this is going on up here. Kind of along the lines of the thinning again. We're not just going in and we're not taking a mandina and just hacking it back with hedge trimmers every year, like my parents do, and I tell them not to do that, to do it anyway. If you're familiar with the bamboo nandina, has the red berries, they grow stalks. You can go down into the base of the plant and remove those tall stalks, and you'll have some shorter stalks that'll now be, the new hierarchy, so to speak, the tallest stalk in the plant. So every year you can remove those taller stalks, and this year's tallest stalks will be next year's tallest stalks. You just keep that cycle going. It's a little bit different example, but the same concept. All right, and then planting. I'm not going to talk all about proper planting, but we'll wrap it up with this. Make sure that you're inspecting plants in the nursery or in the garden center before you buy them. Pull the pot off the plant. See if the root zone is kind of creamy or white color. Don't buy plants that have black, dark, dead-looking roots. You're probably going to find this about 100% of the time, but it would be better if you don't buy plants that have a root-bound situation. When you see this, it just means it's been left in the pot too long. You can fix this problem, so I'm not saying don't buy the plant, you can fix this problem. What you need to do is just loosen all those roots up. Take your fingers, take some kind of garden fork or something, and just loosen all this up and get those roots moving in a lateral direction. I've even seen people take like a garden knife or a garden saw, and they'll just cut the whole bottom of they'll cut 2 inches off the bottom of this root ball. And then maybe even, kind of get the the side walls, kind of all hairy and going in the right direction. And we'll go into what that causes, what it causes a problem here in just a minute. I'll show you. So there's another example. So that right there is probably a little better idea of what kind of root system you should see in a container. You don't have this root bound look, you have a little better look. But I will still point out there are roots that have hit the side wall of the pot, and now they're starting a circular growth pattern. And that root will keep that growth pattern from here on out, unless you fix that, unless you manipulate that problem. By not fixing that problem, you get this. Not only above the surface, but you'll get it under the surface too. So obviously this was a situation where somebody took a tree out of a pot and then just plunked it in the ground, and that was it. So it took some time for that tree trunk to mature and girth out. And of course the circling roots also expanded in their growth as well, in their diameter. So eventually they met. And so what's going to happen is, you're essentially choking all nutrients out right here. There's nothing moving up into the canopy of the tree off this side of the tree, and you can see there's some girdling over here too. So that tree probably doesn't have too many more years. And at this point, you can't really fix this problem. Now, you can catch it early if you have a tree that's got girdling roots. You can prune it out. You can even some people or hire an arborist to come in with an air knife or an air spade, and it's basically an air compressor, and just blast all the dirt away from the root zone, and they go in and physically do surgery on the roots, and then put all the soil back. Does that make sense? Correcting the problem. So if it's just a tree, you got to save. So I brought these slides are included to kind of show when you're planting a tree in from a container or a root ball, and you're going to have more. You're going to find this more often than in a ball and burlap in a root ball situation. You're going to find that if you plant the top of the root ball at the top of your soil profile, you have hidden this root flare. You really need to take the burlap and carefully peel it back and find this natural root flare. Every tree will have a natural flare. I've seen this more and more in the last few years. A lot of the root balls are all now mechanically spayed with hydraulic spades. And in the act of doing so, there's a lot of soil that's dumped on top of the root ball, and they just wrap it all up in a...
Is it bad to plant stuff around them like that and then put mulch around the side on top of that?
Yeah, you need to keep the mulch down as much as possible. So you need to keep that root flare exposed as much as you can. Over on the Cherokee Farm site, we did an inspection last week of a new landscape install by a professional landscape company. I'm not saying everybody, even the professionals do it wrong too. They just have to be educated. But every tree on the site over at the Cherokee Farm on the new building they just built, every tree is planted too deep. The top of the root ball is correct. They planted them so that the top of the root ball matches the soil around it. But there was probably about 3 inches of soil that was somehow got on top of that root flare. And so now the contractors have to go in, because we put that specifically in our plans, that the contractor has to locate the root flare and plant the tree according to those specifications. So what happens is you just have a short-lived tree, and we don't want that. Yep, and I believe now that's enough. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.